Some believe that speaking in tongues is only for hearing in your own language, as we saw in Acts chapter 2. But I have a question for you. If that is the only application, then why do some tongues need an interpretation? 1 Corinthians 14:13. Therefore, he who is speaking in a tongue, let him pray that he might interpret. Verse 27. If anyone speaks in a tongue, let there be two or at the most three, each in turn, and let one interpret. And if there is no interpreter, let him be silent in an assembly, and let him speak to himself and to Elohim. So we can see, if you are in an assembly, unless there is an interpreter, you're not to speak in tongues. Because you're not speaking to men, you're speaking to yourself and to Elohim. As we see here in verse 2, for he who is speaking in a tongue does not speak to men, but to Elohim, for no one understands. But in the Spirit he speaks secrets. He who is speaking in a tongue builds up himself. But he who is prophesying builds up the assembly. He goes on to say, now I wish you all spoke with tongues, but rather that you might prophesy, for he who is prophesying is greater than he who is speaking in tongues, unless he interprets, so that the assembly might receive upbuilding. Now let me say this. I know there's a counterfeit tongue. Satan counterfeits everything that the Father does, right? And I'm sure the majority of us have seen that counterfeit tongue. It's not pretty. But there is a real tongue, a real gift. And we shouldn't scoff at it. We shouldn't make fun of it. We shouldn't mock it. It is a gift of the Spirit, of the Ruach, of the Holy Spirit. So just to be clear, there are the tongues like we saw in the book of Acts, chapter 2, where people spoke in tongues, and the ones that were there heard it in their own language. Okay, that's one application of it. Then there is the gift of speaking in tongues that need an interpretation. So you would do that in an assembly, in a congregation, but is only to be done if there is an interpreter. And even with an interpreter, it's not supposed to be an entire congregation speaking in tongues all at once. It's to be 2 or 3 in turn. And then the last application, which is the least of them, is to speak in a tongue by yourself, speaking just privately to yourself and to Elohim, to our Father in heaven. In the Spirit, speaking secrets, building up yourself. I hope this clears it up a little bit. And I'll close with this verse. Pursue love and earnestly seek the spiritual gifts, but rather that you prophesy.